Welcome to Reboot Cyber with Avertro, the Boardroom series.
Hi, and welcome back to Reboot Cyber with Avertro, Season 2, Episode 1, where we have a series of discussions with cyber leaders, senior execs, breaking down the issues, solutions, and innovations surrounding cybersecurity and their executive leadership teams. Now, I'm so excited to introduce our first guest of Season 2, Mina Zaki. Hi, Mina, how are you?
Hi, Sophia. So excited to be here with you. And I had no idea this was episode 1 of season 2. Like, what?
Yes. Season 1 was exceptionally successful. We didn't anticipate the response that we did. And I'm just so excited. Ian, our CEO, and I are just so excited to bring Season 2 with even more guests and more discussions like this. So I'm very excited to have you on today.
Fantastic. Well done to both of you.
Oh, thanks. Now, before we get in a little bit back, I guess I'd love to go over the history of you and how you ended up in the cybersecurity industry. I know we touched on just before this interview when I did a little bit of background research into your career history, how you kind of started as a writer at Mamma Mia and how your career has progressed and where you are today. So I'd love for our viewers that may not know you, if you could give a little bit of background as to like who you are and what you're doing now.
Sure. So my background is actually in law, and I was a writer for Mamma Mia, or I still do write, but that was kind of my my side hustle, let's call it.
Yeah.
But my background is in law, and in fact, I fell into cybersecurity fairly accidentally, in the sense that I did a subject during my master's in international law. I did a subject on cyber warfare law, and I was hooked. That was all. Like, that was quite literally the first time I was exposed to cybersecurity. And from there on, I started working for a cybersecurity company, and they used to do cloud security. And that's where I picked up on the whole sovereignty component. And it was quite strange in the sense that I had no technical background whatsoever. So I didn't understand anything to do with cybersecurity. And so I had like a dictionary on my desktop that I created for myself with all of the acronyms. And so every acronym I'd hear, I'd be like, what in the world is that? And then I'd go and type it up onto my little dictionary and put the definition next to it. So before you know it, things like SAS, PAS, IAS, became second nature to me. But my role at the organization was, in fact, translator of tech speak. And the reason the CEO brought me on and not someone with a technical background was because I could actually translate what I was learning into lay language and help other people understand it. Because, in this industry, and I've now fallen prey to this, we speak in technical terms and expect everyone to understand, what it is. So, yeah, that's my background, legal, and I hope to continue down that path going into the future because, as you know, we've got quite a bit of significant legislation coming up in Australia around cybersecurity, and I think that there is a need for someone who understands the industry and also the legal aspects of it.
And very immensely impressive. And parts of that I didn't even know. And the dictionary per se, like my background wasn't in cybersecurity when I started, and something like that was so necessary for me. And it's interesting. I don't know if you know this, but my first day working at Avertro, going into the office, the first person I met was our CEO in Yip, and the second person I met was you. Because when you were working,
really? I didn't know this.
Because when you were working for Cyber, you were doing an interview. You were doing those interview series. Yeah,
the Cyber Spotlight. I remember it.
Yes,
that was actually the very first episode.
Yes,
of Cyber Spotlight ever.
Yeah,
and now it's taken the industry by storm. So yeah, no, fantastic. I didn't know that.
And so when I met you, I could tell you had this ability to, I guess, be a connector, like an incredible connector within this industry of cybersecurity. And I guess what that my question to you is why you feel like being, say, a strategic partner or a connector in cybersecurity is so important to the industry. And I guess maybe that translates into why you were able to translate cybersecurity in such a normalized way.
Yeah, that is actually a brilliant question, Sophia. And the only answer I have for you is that cybersecurity is such an agile and such a dynamic industry. We're all continuing to learn. Even, the experts in this industry are continually learning, right? So this is an evolving industry. To put a box around the industry, I think, is the biggest mistake that we've kind of made in the industry. And so I don't think outside the box. I don't recognize the box. The box does not exist for me. Yeah. So for me to make those connections right across industry, horizontally across sectors, comes very easily because I don't see the box. Whereas people who have, especially people who have come from a technical background or from, say, for example, a national security background, for them, the box is very prominent and they can see that box and they know all the players within that box. For me, the box doesn't exist. So it helps me to bring cybersecurity to areas that would not have considered cybersecurity before. And for this industry, I believe that's what we need, because we need to diversify the pool. Firstly and foremostly, we need to diversify the pool of not just, our clients, to make sure that everyone is cyber secure, but also the people that come into this industry to work in it. So, for example, yourself, we need storytellers, marketers, communicators like you in this industry to be able to tell that story, to be able to form those partnerships, and to be able to, use language that isn't off-putting to people who are not in this industry. So I suppose, in short, to answer your question, there is no box in cybersecurity. And for anyone who believes that there is, they're misguided, and that they should just work across sectors rather than trying to fit into this supposed box that for me doesn't exist. And so that's the secret sauce to my success.
And I guess then, from your experience in working with various organizations and your role in working for AusCyber as well, and working with other, like having the visibility of so many different organizations from that role, how do you feel organizations are adapting to having a person represent their company in that manner?
You know what, Sophia, one of the biggest frustrations I had speaking to startups in my role at AusCyber was the fact that they didn't take communication and marketing as seriously as it is, right? If you can't communicate your message to the market properly in an effective manner, you're missing out. So for startups, it quite essentially is that make or break ingredient, where if you've got somebody looking after your marketing and communications, chances are you're going to do better in the industry than those who just don't see it as important. Or, I've heard marketing and communications be referred to as Mickey Mouse business. And, that really irritates me because to someone who thinks that, it's Mickey Mouse business, will never understand how important marketing and communications is for this industry, especially when you're a startup. I mean, sure, look, if you're a large organization, you don't need to, even they've got massive marketing and communication departments, but they're probably less likely to rely on, getting their name out there, because their name's already out there. They've already invested in marketing and communications. Whereas for startups to believe that marketing and comms is Mickey Mouse business, that is a grave mistake. And I think that if a startup was to invest in their marketing and comms from the get-go, I should reiterate, if a startup in cybersecurity invests in their comms and marketing from the very beginning, they do tend to reap the rewards later on. And we've seen this example with many companies. You know, Avertro is a great example of that. A lot of people know who Avertro is. Some of them may not do business with Avertro, but they know who it is because their marketing and comms function is so strong in the industry.
Mm. And I think there's an interplay, and we talk about this internally, like that you touch on the storytelling aspect. And one of the things that we try and translate within our platform, Cyber HQ, is translating cyber in a normalized way. And that's with, empowering security leaders to be able to go to the board to translate, reporting metrics, positioning, resilience in a normalized storytelling way. And I think that also works in the communication of how you communicate cybersecurity to potential customers. And I was just wondering, in your role previously working in government, how you found what changes you saw when working in, I guess, strategic partnerships. Did you notice anything, the impact of having you in that role in government changes, and I guess some of the tips that you think government could be doing better? Because from an outsider's point of view, I'm not sure how well. I definitely see progression since I've worked into the industry, but I'd love an insider's view, and I'm sure our viewers would be, as to the impact strategic partnership has within government.
Yeah, so yes, it has improved immensely.
Yeah.
I've seen some great improvements in the industry, particularly with that, not just with government and industry, but academia as well. So, working together in order to build the ecosystem and make it work for all of us. I suppose the example I could give you is when I first came into this industry, government was holding roundtables. Mm-hmm. And so there was just not enough of that collaboration and working together. It was, it was very much, you pitch to us, we will consider it, and, we'll get back to you. A conversation that I had with the New South Wales government was actually an eye-opener, where the person I was speaking to said to me, we get pitched at every single day, and every single pitch is exactly the same as the last. What we want to know is their story. Why did they start what they started? And what is the problem that they're trying to solve, right? A lot of the times when we do sales pitches in this industry, we don't even mention that stuff. Or, we just do a very brief, this is who we are, this is when we started, and these are the offerings that we have, and then go straight into the offerings. Whereas industry is more interested in what's the problem that you're trying, what's your why? Where is the why? And so storytelling is essential for that, because storytelling essentially focuses on the why. I did a talk recently with UTS, and these were innovation startups, and it was an entrepreneurship course. And my presentation was specifically on the importance of storytelling. If you can't tell your story to a person that is not from your industry and have them buy into it, you're not doing your job. And you're not going to find success in this industry, because in order to find success in this industry, you have to be able to bring in a really diverse range of not just customers, but also collaborators, right? So whether they're in government or academia or industry or wherever they are, if they can buy into your story, chances are your business is going to be successful. And that's the very black and white of it.
And it's such a beautiful point, and it's something that we were drilled in when I actually was learning when I was working in marketing and communications, is storytelling is what connects us as humans, and that's what we all crave. So to be able to connect to yourself with the story, with whoever potentially you're pitching to, is fundamentally important. It's interesting because I guess from going through a government process and application, do you have ways that you would fine tune that in written communication?
Yes and no. Mm-hmm. I find that most people tend not to read newsletters. Everyone's emails are so jam-packed that a lot of the times the written communications that we send out as companies tend to just go into junk mail.
Mm.
What's more effective is thought leadership. So writing about a topic that is important to the industry. You know, there are lots of publications in our industry, and we're very lucky to have them, writing thought pieces, which I know that Ian does. And I appreciate that so much because he simplifies things. He takes something, you know, that's overwhelming, and, you know, generally we find that the larger companies write these things for their customers. Whereas, you know, for the smaller players, nobody kind of goes in and does that deciphering or that translation. And so those thought pieces of breaking down something big into understandable language, I think they're more effective than, you know, newsletters every month or week or whatever. I think people have newsletter or email fatigue, as I'd like to call it. And right now we need to be doing analysis and thought leadership. And so when we're writing, we need to have a think about, is this going to be effective writing, or is it just another run-of-the-mill email that's going to go straight into junk? I mean, the time and effort that it takes to actually put a newsletter together for a startup especially, I think that time can be better spent communicating internally rather than communicating externally via newsletter. So if there's a newsletter that's being used to communicate internally with the staff, you know, depending on the size of the company, I think that's more effective use of written material than a newsletter to communicate to our industry. But I think thought leadership pieces, like for example, Ian did a brilliant, and he does this every year, analysis of the budget and how it applies to our industry. A lot of people who, you know, I had a friend who said to me, it's fantastic, the government's putting in a lot of money into cybersecurity, you guys must be really happy. And I said, yeah, we are. Like, you know, we're going to welcome any investment into cybersecurity, but I'd like you to read this because this breaks down exactly where that money's spent and how it impacts us. And she read it and she came back and she was like, oh,
Different.
had no idea. So, you know, pieces like that are effective, are important. The general run-of-the-mill newsletters, oh, everything's handy and dandy, and, you know, that stuff I don't think works.
Yeah, I completely understand that. And I think it's great. And it's also, again, connecting people to a story, to an understanding. And I guess you touched on it earlier as well around the aspect of being sovereign. And I wanted to kind of understand your point of view, not even from just a government perspective, but when approaching or as a potential client looking for cybersecurity tech, what is your stance on purchasing sovereign tech?
I'm a sovereign tech evangelist, if I can be called that. I honestly believe that sovereign tech, you know, I hear a lot of criticism of sovereign tech, and the criticism is generally that our technology is not up to scratch. There is plenty of technology out there that can do what we're trying to do and is ready to go, so on and so forth, but it's not sovereign. And I understand that, and I appreciate where they're thinking and, you know, the business component of that and importance of that. But if we don't invest in sovereign tech, we can't expect it to ever get to that level of, you know, brilliance that we're purchasing from overseas. And so when there is an opportunity for us to invest in, to take a punt on sovereign tech, I think we should do it, because that is the only way that technology, our sovereign technology that's being built here in Australia, is going to progress and it is going to improve. If we don't invest in sovereign tech, we can't expect to reap the rewards. So, you know, it's like a death cycle that feeds itself. Oh, you know, our sovereign tech isn't up to it, so we're just going to go buy overseas. Well, yeah, that's great, but if you're not taking a chance on sovereign tech and helping them develop that sovereign tech, it's never going to happen. So yeah, it is a bit of a passion point and a pain point for me.
Yeah, and there's a lot to do with education as well, especially
It does.
An Australian company with a sovereign Australian company.
Absolutely. And, you know, Avertro is a great example. What Avertro is doing is so groundbreaking that it's very difficult to find. It's very difficult to justify not investing in something like what Avertro is doing, because here you are with these, amazing results, amazing case studies. What's your excuse? Why aren't you investing? And so, it makes it very difficult to sit there and listen to the justifications of using, overseas tech over sovereign tech, when I know for a fact that this particular piece of tech is great. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm as
You're welcome.
passionate about it as you are. And I guess then on the topic, because we moved from sovereign tech to, I know you're quite passionate as well around security by design, and going to our earlier topic, maybe I'll let you simplify or translate what security by design is. And then I'd love to kind of get your view on how you feel organizations, even at enterprise levels, are adopting security by design, and what you think, I guess, what you've seen as like great adoptions and what we could be doing better.
So security by design is essentially making sure that cybersecurity is a forethought when it comes to setting up a business or a startup, rather than an afterthought. It's essentially, if we're getting tech ideas or any kind of new business that's coming up, if they think about putting cybersecurity at the very foundational level of development, they don't need to think about it later on. And it actually ends up saving them a lot of money. And it also ends up being providing their tech or their business with digital trust. And digital trust is a huge component of secure by design, because it essentially is a bargaining chip when it comes to you being able to sell your technology to the market. If you can assure people that your technology is secure, they're more likely to purchase from you. And this goes right across the board with every single industry. And, one industry that is particularly interesting right now is the health industry. Previously, the health industry didn't necessarily consider cybersecurity as an important aspect of what they did. With rapid digitalization, they're now having to go, oh, hang on, we need to do things better. For example, patient details should not be sent over from Hotmail account to Gmail account, and so on and so forth. We should actually have a secure system where they're stored, that data is stored. And we've seen several cases overseas, right here in Australia, where, we have had attacks, and that information can be used against organizations. So going to the second part, the first part of your question, what is secure by design? It is cybersecurity at a very foundational before thought rather than an afterthought. And then going to, where has it been done well and where hasn't it been done well? And from an enterprise perspective, I think the health industry is probably the best example of this, because it is such a huge industry. It is such an industry that can have massive impacts on it from a cybersecurity perspective, and yet they are extremely behind as well. And so sitting in front of a health industry company, in front of their board, and trying to explain cybersecurity to them, if you were to try and do this 5 years ago, chances were it would have been impossible to get through. However, now, thanks to COVID and thanks to us all having to, use computers more and be more online, they're actually sitting up and listening. So I have to give it to them that the health industry has come a long way in that they're taking cybersecurity seriously now. I wish they'd taken it seriously 5 years ago, but, better late than never. And what's helped with that is the critical infrastructure legislation that's come into place, where we've seen before only, I think it was 4 categories were considered critical infrastructure. Now we've got 11 or 13.
Mhm.
I've forgotten the exact numbers, but there's a huge number, and health is smack bang in the middle of that. So, where the carrot option didn't work, we've now got the stick. And the stick, I think, will be very much effective. And so we will see a greater uptake of cybersecurity moving forward by all industries across the board.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess, looking into now that the legislation expands to so many more industries, I guess foundationally, it's an important question around people are looking to expand their cybersecurity capabilities internally and their teams. And I think for people that are currently growing their teams, I know we touched on it slightly about your passion, I guess, setting up cybersecurity candidates for success when going into first-year cybersecurity roles. What do you see, I guess, as some of the ways we could better prepare people who are moving out of study into cybersecurity roles coming out of uni and TAFE?
Sophia, right now we have a huge number of people who have come out of study who don't have roles in cybersecurity because they lack the 4, 5, 15 years of experience to be able to enter those roles that are being advertised. And on the other hand, we've got massive shortages, right? In the sense of we've got the jobs and we don't have the people. Well, we do have the people. The problem is they don't fit the cookie cutter mold that we've created for them. And so we need to rethink that cookie cutter mold. For me, one of the most effective solutions to this is upskilling staff who are non-technical staff who work for cybersecurity companies, upskilling them in cybersecurity, professional cybersecurity studies. And so I believe that is the best way to do it. Employ somebody, at an entry level role, whether it's, admin or sales or whatever it is. If they don't have the cybersecurity, professional cybersecurity technical background, invest in them. Put them through certifications, put them through courses, because that is the only way. And this goes back to every single company in our industry. It's not just the big companies that should be doing this. Everybody should be doing this, investing in that pipeline of cybersecurity professionals that should be coming through, because we're all going to need them. We need them right now. We needed them yesterday, but let me tell you, in the future, we're going to need them even more. I mean, yes, look, there is that aspect of automation, but cybersecurity is a people's business. It's not, you can't do it all through automation. And so you do need those people, you do need those skills on hand. And I suppose the other aspect of that is, I personally know several people who have completed cybersecurity masters and they come out and then they can't find a job because they don't have the years and years of experience. And so then they end up entering the field from an entry-level role for which they're massively overqualified. And yeah, in good cases where they end up in good companies, they work their way up pretty quickly and end up being in the management roles that they're supposed to be in. But in other companies, they hate it so much that they end up leaving the industry, right? Why waste your time in a company getting paid, I don't know, $50,000 when you can go and work elsewhere and earn much more? And it's just such a waste. It's such a waste of all that time and effort that they've put into getting their studies. So in short, the answer to it is upskilling current non-technical staff and also investing in traineeships, investing in bringing on recent graduates, young people, looking at recruiting people on a part-time basis from high school. I'm sure, you had a job when you were in high school. My first job was at KFC. Had I had, the opportunity to work for a cybersecurity company, particularly now that we've got this remote work concept, even if it was sending out the emails that needed to be sent or whatever it is, bringing juniors in from a high school year 10 level,
Yeah.
I think is, another great option, and investing in them through traineeships. That they're the solutions for the future.
I completely understand that one also, because I've seen it, and Nigel Hedge and I had this conversation recently around being reactive or proactive in our staffs. And, people like, I need it now, will actually plan the foresight of, we're growing our team, we're expanding our remit, whatever it is, and investing in those people if we can't locate them. And I am what you're talking about. Like, I come from a tech background. I don't come from a cybersecurity background. And Ian invested in me and my passion and my ability and trained me, and my team trained me, which was interesting. And I think that there's so many bridges in, like, I realize my role is more head of brand and community, but I need to have that cybersecurity knowledge to be able to market our product correctly. And that can be learnt, but I don't think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not hard. I mean, people get so scared when they hear of cybersecurity. They're like, oh, that sounds really technical and advanced. It's not. It's actually common sense. Even the technical aspects of it make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So it's just about teaching those people. And, you hit the nail on the head, Sophia. Opportunity, right? Just giving people the opportunity and investing in them in the sense of spending time with them. Time is just so critical when it comes to training these people. There are also companies that I've seen who bring on trainees, then they don't have the time to invest with them or in them, and the trainees end up leaving. So that aspect of time, bring one person on, give them solid time and investment. And if you can make that person, turn that person into a cybersecurity professional by, in 2 years' time, perfect. Start another one, right? Rather than saying, oh, it's all too hard, can't do it, we don't have the time for training, so we're not going to take any.
It's so true. And if you really looked at it, it'd be like, you're spending more time in the early stages, but it's going to save you so much time in the long run. So rather than having to go through that cycle.
Yeah.
But Mina, it's been so wonderful chatting to you. And I guess we end our interviews to be like, what's coming up for you? What can people expect? What can people see? What are you looking to charge for?
I'm just going to be doing more of what I'm doing, which is, building up alliances. I'm extremely passionate about this industry and being able to connect people. I was a born connector. And so I'll be doing more of that. For the future, I would like to, as I said earlier, focus a little bit more on the legislative aspects of cybersecurity. And, I used to do translating text speak. Well, now I need to do translating text speak into legislative legal speak and vice versa. And so future-wise, that's where I'm headed. But in the near future, I will be doing what I do best, which is connecting.
Great.
And creating partnerships and collaborating.
Yeah, and I can imagine it will be incredibly successful. So
thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time out. And for everyone listening, if you like these conversations, please like and subscribe to however you are watching or listening today. So thank you from us and the team at Avertro.